we don't see a man as being controlled or bullied or beaten by a woman. Simon got in a relationship with this girl, and he moved in with her within a flash of an eye. You know, one minute they were friends, and then the next minute they were in this relationship, and then they moved in together. But she seemed a nice girl, and the main thing was that actually he loved her deeply, but we saw less of him. And at first you think, well, that's because it's a new relationship and, you know, don't want anybody else. But then when we did see him, the phone calls never stopped, that his phone never stopped ringing, whether he came here, whether he was at his brother's. He didn't really see a lot of his friends. But when he did, his phone never stopped ringing. If perhaps it had been a girl, you'd think, oh, he's a bit heavy, you know, keep bothering you and keep pestering you, can't he leave you alone? Whereas with it being a man, it's more a case of a jovial thing. Oh, you're under the thumb. Oh, she's got you where she wants you. It's seen in a different perspective, and yet it's the same. There were also a couple of times when I'd noticed some marks on his face, and my heart sank, and I can't really explain why, because it could have been anything, but there was this voice inside, and I really can't put it into words, but there was just something that I couldn't put my finger on. It came to his birthday, and I'd given him some money because he wanted to get some tools for his job, and he wanted to, it's the first time in a long time, England was playing, and he was going to go with his two lifelong friends. They'd been friends since infant school, to watch and celebrate the match and, you know, hope England win. Anyway, he then asked if I would babysit because she wanted to come, and he'd bought her, instead of spending the money on his tools, he'd bought her an England top. Not one for himself, but for her. And I just felt so uneasy, and I said to him, what about you? What about you, Simon? Another time I'd gone to see them, their flat had their own front door, and there was some blood in front of on the pavement, and the next door neighbour had said, oh, that's not very nice, is it? And I hadn't really gave it much thought, but putting it together with the marks on Simon's face, him not spending his money, his birthday money, on himself, and it wasn't just for himself, he was buying tools, you know, for the pair of them, not being able to see his friends. I can see this now as all controlling behaviour. He didn't really speak out about it, but men don't, do they? And we don't see it. We don't see a man as being controlled or bullied or beaten by a woman, especially when, you know, he was quite well built, she was of slight build, but actually, my Simon, I know, was a victim of domestic abuse. He was coerced and controlled. His quality of life wasn't the same. I can remember saying to him, you don't have to live together for you to be a good dad. And I deeply regret saying that, because I wouldn't have said that if that was my daughter. If that was my daughter, I wouldn't have expected her to leave her children. And yet how could he? You know, he was the main carer, he was the main worker, you know, he was sleeping on the settee, he was looking after the children. So how could he leave? How could he talk about it? It's difficult to talk about domestic abuse, whether you're a woman or a man, because the person you're talking about is somebody that actually you still deeply love, even though they're being abusive. So it can't quite register. But for a man to say, I'm being abused, I'm being controlled, I'm being hit, it's so hard. It's so hard. So where do they turn? Who will hear their voice? Simon wasn't only a victim of domestic abuse, and I've only just shared a little bit of the story with you, but Simon's life was taken. He was murdered by the woman that he loved, that abused him in a domestic situation. And that's the reason that I'm sharing this, that all I have left now of my son are memories. Regrets of, if I'd have said something, if I'd have known where to go for help, if I'd have been able to help him speak out, if I'd have been more forthright, I don't know. I don't know if it would have changed. But I do know that if we don't speak out, nothing can change and nothing can be addressed and help can't be received. He had gone to work that day. He had come home. I had spoken with him, and we'd even had a little joke because I'd started a new job. The next call that I got was from the police, because she had gone out, she'd attacked somebody, and she came home and she fatally stabbed my son. And that is the reason that I'm speaking out. I don't want anybody to be sat here for the sake of not raising a voice, asking the questions, going with your gut, going with your heart. If it caused a little bit of a row, it's better to cause a little bit of a row and hopefully get help and to stop another life taken. This little bear is my only way of hugging my son, and even that hurts. The bear is made out of my son's shirt, and as I said, I don't want anybody to be sat holding a memory bear because their life has been taken, their life has been marred by domestic abuse, domestic violence, domestic coercion, domestic control, and then tragically and fatally taken away by murder.